If you ever notice yourself whispering to an empty room or quietly talking under your breath while walking down the street, society has likely trained you to feel an instant wave of embarrassment. From a very early age, we are taught that talking to ourselves is a warning sign, a crack in the mind, proof that something is wrong, or a symptom of loneliness and social withdrawal. You quickly glance around to see if anyone heard you. You shut the voice down, you label it as a flaw, but what if the truth is the complete opposite? What if that voice is not evidence that your mind is falling apart, but a signal that it is trying to come together? Carl Jung, one of the most influential thinkers in the history of psychology, never saw self-talk as a disorder. In fact, he practiced it deeply, deliberately, and with great discipline. To Jung, refusing to speak to oneself was not a sign of mental health. It was often a sign of a dangerous separation from the unconscious mind. He believed the psyche is not one single solid unit, but a collection of inner characters, hidden shadows, and living energies that are always active beneath conscious awareness. When you speak to yourself, you are not imagining things. You are starting a conversation. You are building a bridge between the conscious ego, the part of you that says, I, and the vast depths of the unconscious. Most people spend their entire lives afraid to look inward. They drown out their inner voice with noise screens and constant stimulation because they are scared of what they might hear if they truly listened. But you are here. You are listening. And that already makes you different. The psychology of self-talk is far more complex than simple madness. It is a refined system of self-control and, eventually, self-understanding. To understand this fully, we need to look at the different ways we talk to ourselves, because not all inner dialogue works the same way. The first type is easy to recognize. This is practical or organizational self-talk. You might hear yourself saying things like, okay, first I'll put the keys here, then I'll send that message. No, wait, the message can wait. On the surface, this sounds ordinary and unimportant. But from a Jungian point of view, something meaningful is happening. Jung described two kinds of thinking. One is directed thinking, which requires effort and focus. The other is fantasy thinking, which flows freely and often feels irrational. When you speak your plans out loud, you are using directed thinking to bring order to disorder. You are stepping into the role of architect of your own life. In that moment, you are externalizing the brain's control system. You are turning vague impulses into clear language. This is not a scattered mind, it is a mind creating structure. You are pulling unconscious urges into conscious awareness. This is a form of control, not weakness. Research shows that people who speak their problem-solving process out loud often solve tasks faster and more accurately than those who stay silent. You are not losing control of your mind, you are sharpening it. But this is only the beginning. Beyond organizing tasks, there is a second, more intense form of self-talk, emotional regulation. This happens in moments of stress. You might say, calm down, it's okay. Just breathe. Why are you reacting like this? If someone overheard you, you might feel awkward. But Jung would say this is a crucial psychological moment. When you speak to yourself using you instead of I, you create distance between the part of you that feels and the part of you that observes. In Jungian language, you stop yourself from being possessed by an emotion or a complex. When anger rises, you don't just feel angry, you become anger. It takes over completely. But the moment you talk to it, the moment you say, you need to calm down, you split the experience. You prove that there is a part of you feeling anger and another part watching it. This is the foundation of higher awareness. It is the ability to stand outside your own emotional storm. This is not insanity. It is deep sanity. It is the ability to guide your own inner world. Many people never develop this skill. They are carried away by every emotion, every irritation, every shadow that appears. But if you already talk yourself through frustration or pain, you possess what modern psychology calls emotional intelligence. Jung would call it integration of the personality. You are not suppressing emotions. You are communicating with them. You are treating the emotional side of yourself not as an enemy, but as something that needs direction and care. This leads to an important question. If talking to yourself helps with order and emotional survival, why is it so frowned upon? Perhaps because society prefers people who do not question themselves, who do not engage in inner dialogue, who simply follow patterns. Someone who talks to themselves openly is admitting they are unfinished. They are still evolving. They are in motion. Soon, we will explore the darker and more mysterious sides of this habit, especially what happens when the inner voice becomes cruel or when conversations grow long and detailed. But before going deeper, it's worth inviting you to stay connected. If you find value in understanding the psychology behind daily behavior, subscribing to the channel helps you stay engaged with ideas that help you understand yourself more clearly. Now let's move into the area that frightens most people. What happens when self-talk isn't about planning or calming down? What happens when it comes from loneliness, or worse, becomes constant self-criticism? This brings us to the third type of self-talk, the dialogue of solitude. This often appears in people who spend a lot of time alone by choice or by circumstance. You might narrate your actions or carry on long conversations with people who aren't physically there. Society often views this with concern, assuming it's only a coping method for isolation, and while it can offer comfort, Jung saw something deeper. He once said, "I am alone, but not lonely." For introverted or creative minds, the inner world often feels more real than the outer one. When you speak to yourself in solitude, you are not just filling silence. You are activating your inner reality. You are exploring ideas and allowing the unconscious to speak. This is where creativity is born. Many great thinkers, artists, and inventors admitted to this habit. It clears mental space and allows new connections to form. But there is a danger here, and Jung warned about it often. The danger depends on who is speaking. Sometimes the voice is not helpful or kind. Sometimes it is the shadow. This brings us to the fourth type of self-talk, the one almost everyone experiences but rarely admits, the critical voice. If your inner dialogue sounds harsh, saying things like, "You're useless," or "Why are you like this?" you are encountering what Jung called the shadow. When you speak to yourself this way, you are not speaking as your true self. You are repeating an internalized voice. Often this voice belongs to a parent, teacher, or painful memory that became part of your psyche. Jung explained that when insecurities are pushed down, they don't disappear. They form autonomous complexes that speak on their own. When you hear insults in your head, it is not madness. It is inner conflict. Many people try to silence this voice with positivity or distraction. Jung believed this was a mistake. Ignoring the shadow only makes it stronger. The shadow grows in silence. When you speak to it calmly and consciously, you shift the balance of power. Instead of accepting the insult, you question it. You become the mediator. This is the beginning of real shadow work. Now we enter the most misunderstood and powerful form of self-talk. In Jungian psychology, this is known as active imagination. This is when you consciously hold conversations with different parts of yourself. You might say, "Part of me wants to quit everything, but another part is afraid." Then you allow that fearful part to respond. This looks strange from the outside, but psychologically, it is profound. You are no longer ruled by one voice. You are creating inner dialogue. This builds metacognition, the ability to think about thinking. Athletes and performers often do this naturally by speaking to themselves in the third person. It works because it activates authority within the mind. Jung himself practiced this in his Red Book. Speaking with inner figures he considered psychologically real. Speech becomes the bridge between consciousness and the unconscious. Language unlocks insight. When you talk to yourself, you are running mental simulations. You are testing reality before acting. But there is one final level. The difference between those who grow from self-talk and those who suffer lies in the relationship with the voice. Are you cruel to yourself or cooperative? Speaking aloud creates stronger memory traces in the brain. Jung understood that spoken words anchor fleeting thoughts. By speaking, you make the invisible visible. But the way you speak matters. If the unconscious controls the dialogue, anxiety grows. If you guide it, identity changes. When the voice says you will fail, don't silence it. Respond with curiosity. Ask why. This shifts you from victim to observer. In Jungian therapy, this is true mental health. You are not your thoughts. You are the space they appear in. With practice, this skill strengthens. Those who seem confident have already had these conversations privately. They have integrated their shadow and listened to their inner wisdom.